Where's my hat? I've been looking for that. Well, is it? Never mind.
Hello everybody, it's April, and that can only mean one thing. It's Bombermonth. It's once again time to talk about Bomberman for an entire month. From the weird to the obscure, let's make this Bombermonth even better than the last. Speaking of which... The Game Boy, the second attempt by Nintendo at portable gaming. Compared to the competition, it may not have color, but it could last longer with longer battery life. And the games also helped.
Now you're playing with power, portable power.
Indeed, I am. But where does Bomberman fit into all of this?
He had games on the system.
Yes, he... Well, would you believe if I told you there was a series of Bomberman games for the Grey Brick? This would be known as the GB series. And besides the first game, I know next to nothing about the series.
It's definitely 'cause you're an idiot.
Starting off with Bomberman GB. Or is it Wario Plus?
Yeah, as it turns out, while being localized everywhere else, Nintendo didn't think Bomberman was popular enough for the main character role when they approached Hudson Soft for a potential Mario Bomberman crossover. So at first Mario was chosen, but due to fear of Bob use, they ended up not going with him, because apparently a Bob is not okay but a gun is. However, another character who was brand new with just 2 games under his buckle was considered, That's right, it's the garlic munching, nose picking warrior. And they still bothered with a list of do's and don't actions for warrior.
Stingy as fuck Nintendo will be right back.
But anyway, the story has White Bomber riding out on his motorcycle he never had before or ever since, when suddenly he's ambushed by Black Barber and his gang that sound like they came straight out of a high school movie. But they not only kick his ass, but they also steal all of White Barber's power items.
At least they explained why you don't start off with any. But did none of them try to steal the motorcycle? I don't believe that for a second. That thing would have been gone like Fry's bike.
But anyway, the game controls like a regular 2D Bomberman game, where you move with the D-pad and place bombs with the A button. That's it. Unless you count the dash you get from the dash power-up by beating the second boss, but I barely counted. The maps are huge, which not only makes the maze feel exactly the same, but you can also easily get lost after a while, and that can get boring, very boring. And that's the thing with this game. The game isn't very good at standing out from being a generic 2D Bomberman game. In fact, I dare even say this game is very generic. I mean, look at this. For most of the game, you're battling the same Black Bomber goons. Couldn't there be more variety to them, like some are faster, some cause more damage, just something that make them stand out? They don't even do that with the look of the stages, causing them to all blend together like mush, making them harder for me to remember.
Okay, but what about the bosses? How are those?
Well, to put it simply, they are so easy. I played the Mario games harder than this also goes for Mario games. Strategically, they're not really interesting, as all they do is move around in some sort of path and sometimes attack. They are more boring and dull than engaging.
That being said, why don't I move on to the next game?
Because nobody wants to hear your voice.
Hang on. Much better. Well, anyway, since the game eventually became Wario Blast, for the sequel, it became the first game everywhere else but Japan. Naming hasn't been that confusing since the whole Final Fantasy fiasco. But I'll simply be referring to this as GB2. So, does this improve on the first, or is it the same as the verse? And how much Indiana Jones jokes can I get away with just because of the outfit? This is Bomberman GB2.
The story is that of Indie Bomber
We named the dog Indiana.
exploring on an adventure, more specifically to look for the Ring of Whistles, which sounds like something straight out of Lord of the Rings. That is until Indie Bomber falls through a trap in the floor.
It's the mileage.
Already the graphics and controls are better, as the game also doesn't make you just do battles, as it goes back to the tradition of defeating a certain amount of enemies and then exiting.
Yes, thank you. This is how it's done.
Don't get me wrong, battles are fun, but if you make them the whole entire game, then they lose their flavor very quickly.
But somebody should check on Indy.
In the Japanese version, he's supposed to be White Barber's grandpa, but he still dreams about Pretty Barber in the pause screen.
I ought to kill you right now.
Along with normal power-ups, you also get special items, and that includes a whip, which is the equivalent of the bump kick.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
Wouldn't it make more sense to make the whip a permanent movement? He has it on the box art, for crying out loud. But then again, White Bomber also has a gun, so...
You also get the dash, pretty self-explanatory. The line bomb, also pretty self-explanatory. The rest are full bomb, motor bomber, and tackle.
But to be honest, that doesn't matter when the game has a strict as fuck time limit.
Seriously, by the time you need to exit, you are mere seconds away from time up. Why?
But with that being said, what about the bosses?
Well, they are more competent than GB1, but that's it. I don't really find them interesting or engaging. And to think the whole adventure wasn't worth it just because Indy Barber decided to diss the fucking ring for no fucking reason.
So you're telling me that you did all of that for no reason?
Jones!
Sorry, I need a minute. I feel better. Despite a few gripes, I could say Bomberman GB2 is a vast improvement over the first GB, which leads to the third and final game, Bomberman GB3.
On the 11th planet of the Barber Nebula, Owen, a sudden earthquake happened. Deep underground, the terrible evil Barber, or is it Devil Barber, who had been trapped there for a very long time, was finally able to get free, rise to power, and he stole the Barber capsules from Bomberman. Now Bomberman and all his friends, except for Black Barber, who stays behind, coward, are determined to get those capsules back and defeat the evil Barber once and for all. So the gameplay is more of GB2, complete with different objectives per level. As shown on the box art, you can ride a motorbike, not related to the one from GB1. The game also has more emphasis on different gimmicks, but not all of them turn out great. Auto-scrollers in the Bomberman game was a mistake. But what about the bosses? Well, unfortunately, just like Bomberman GB2, I also find them underwhelming here as well. This is also one of the Bomberman games to not have a battle mode. Instead, there's a challenge mode that allows you to start off with any starting power-ups. You mainly just try to beat a level and a boss at a fast time to get the best high score. Now, I don't usually do these, so it's not really for me.
So overall, Bomberman GB3 is technically way better game than GB2. It improves the time limit, adds more gimmicks and special items, but I don't know if I'll ever go back to these. To me, they all feel like novelty. They might be cool to try out, but after a while, you'll just drop them and go for something else. You'd be better off with one of the console Bomberman games. But man, what a great way to start off the month! This was Joseph from Joseph's World, and more is on the way. Month. Most of you would know the PC Engine as the TurboGrafx 16. While at first coming out when 8-bit was still in, the PC Engine was soon overpowered by the SNES and the Sega Genesis, two far more popular consoles. And let me tell you, they tried. Oh, how they tried. But the funny thing is that the PC Engine was way more popular in Japan. And since Hudson Soft made it, you know where I'm going with this. I've got 3 games to go, so let's not waste any time. Starting off with the one simply called Bomberman. Man, that's definitely not gonna leave a lot of confusion.
The story involves Dr. Mitsumori, two robots, White Bomber and Black Bomber. However, since Black Bomber suffered a programming error that Dr. Mitsumori not only didn't check, but somehow missed, Black Bomber is now much of a power-hungry maniac. And so he kidnaps the doctor's daughter and escapes to an intimidating castle. Which means White Bomber's journey begins. But one has to wonder, what was the doctor's mind process?
Alright, and done. Whew. Whew. Black Bomber is now complete. Shouldn't you be checking if there are any programming bugs or errors that can potentially turn him evil and, well, I don't know, kidnap me? Nah, I think you're overreacting. Anyway, leave me be. Fast Food Friday is on the way. So, better good luck.
The game is traditional in how you need to defeat all the enemies and then exit. Except there's one difference that sets it apart. You need to find the exit.
Wow.
Not only is this a hassle, but it is especially a hassle when it's the last thing you need to do. Thankfully, you don't die in time up, but enemies spawn in, making the process even more frustrating. Sometimes I just end up finding them by complete accident.
Huh?
I also don't like how some of the later levels insist on being bigger vertically, making it even more of a pain.
Right, but there are things I liked about this.
The addition of a world map is cool, even if you don't do much in it. The graphics were first time 16-bit, Bomberman at least is really colorful and charming. The bosses ain't half bad either. Like, take a look at the snake dude, for example. It's all about timing, and I like that a lot. And the music is pretty sweet.
But overall, this is but a dip as to what they could do with the PC engine. AKA, while I liked it, it is definitely rough around the edges. But what about Bomberman 93? Would that improve over the first? Well, there's only one way to find out. This is Bomberman 93.
After stopping him last time and destroying his castle, whew, I know he stole someone, but did he really deserve his castle to be destroyed? Seems a tad bit too far. Well, anyway, Black Bomber sets out for galactic terrorism. Oh, and I see why his castle got destroyed. As him and a bunch of buddies, none of which resemble the one from GB, steal the program chips from the pan-galactic mother computer, and they scatter them all around 6 planets. Oi, what a mess. Already the graphics have been touched up to look more refined. The goals and structure are mostly the same, but they got rid of the huge verticality.
Thank you!
They're still there kinda, but not as much thankfully. You still need to find the exit though, which is a pain. But at least it's less of a pain.
Although I should definitely talk about the bosses.
To put it simply, they are more of what I already enjoyed in the previous game. But what sets these apart from last time are the design. Each of these guys' design are far more fitting with the cutesy look the series used to have before it became more refined. And in 93, they really cooked up the music to be even better.
So in conclusion, Bomberman 93 is definitely an improvement over the previous game. Which means finally we are at the last game, which only came out in Japan. Lucky. Bomberman 94. Whew.
Planet Bomber with a different design was protected by 5 spirit pictures when suddenly Bagua, who appears for the very first time here, sent his army of robots to destroy the spirit power, which splits Planet Bomber into 5 whole chunks. The graphics have been revamped along with the animations, which results in an overall better looking game, even if it's obvious the bomb is a different tile.
Oops.
Other details can also be appreciated, like how during gameplay the HUD Bomber is all peppy and cheerful, but as soon as the pauses hit, so does exhaustion. In this game, you don't have to kill every enemy. Instead, you just need to destroy the core mechanisms and then go to the capsule. Some core are on the ground while some are on top of enemies, but depending on how many soft blocks left when reaching the capsule, they turn into coin and you need to collect them all before time runs out. For the first time ever, Louis are introduced in this game. Shut up! And in total there are 5. Green can dash, blue can kick bombs, yellow can kick soft blocks, purple can jump, and pink can dance.
Wait, that's it?
Well, yeah. Oh, come on, don't be like that. Look. Ain't it adorable?
Okay, fine. But he's still kind of pointless.
So how about them buses, huh?
Well, honestly, I can say that they are the best of both Bomberman, PC Engine, and Bomberman 93. It requires strategy, just like in Bomberman, but they also have the same cutesy design, like in 93, only modernized. An example would be the first boss. Again, this monkey that controls the robot. It's weird, but it's fun figuring out who the weakness was. Monkey. But Louis' sacrifice don't get me. No, why?
Bomberman 94 to me is what people say Shattered Bomberman is. Not only is this the best game of the franchise, but it is the best just to introduce to a newcomer. To me, Bomberman 94 is the one that truly deserves being called the best. And not just because Watch Mojo said it, and now everybody says it. Shattered Bomberman. Later on, a port to the Sega Genesis released in the US and Europe, titled Mega Bomberman, which only makes sense for Europe. Couldn't they make it Genesis Bomberman for the US release?
Well, anyway, to put it simply, this port suffers a lot from weaker hardware, whether it be loss of detail, loss of color, loss of animation, or even making the music sound more grating and twangy.
It's good on its own, but compared to 94, it's no competition. And then years later in 2008, Bomberman 94 was remade as Bomberman 08.
Well, it's Bomberman 94 on a smaller screen. The graphics have been redone, which is nice, but the game is so much choppier. I don't get why they did this on phones. Couldn't this have been done for the Wii, PS3, or even Xbox 360? This was 2008. This version doesn't even have the intro explaining the story, so those who grew up with this will have no idea why White Bomber is doing any of this. That is, if they hadn't played 94 Mega already. This version even butchers the ending, and it looks so cheap. There's a reason this is obscure. Heck, I had a better time with Mega, and that's already butchered as is.
But man, was it finally worth seeing what these games were all about? Especially 94. That was the one that eluded me the most. But This was Joseph from Joseph's World, and I'll see you guys next time. Hello everybody, Bombermonth is so sick, dude.
It may not always be faithful with the game, but for the 70% of this, that's pretty damn close. Combine that with stories that go further than given credit, lovable characters that grow and learn, and its incredible animation. It can be funny, it can be odd, it can be heartwarming, it can even be gut-wrenching.
So let's not waste any time and take a look at the top 12 best episodes. Why 12? Because 10 and 5 are overrated, so sit back and enjoy the top 12 best Bombermonth episodes.
The idle Bomberman, Mighty returns to planet Bomber to guard the Cosmo Diamond. No, not that Cosmo. As he reunites with his younger brother Zero. Mojo, however, leads his army to steal the diamond with the help of his heat cannon, and so Zero has to help his older brother out despite the danger. What I like about this episode is that it doesn't really fall into the traps of the first episodes, and even if Mighty is a bit annoying, it makes sense seeing as how he's still new to the whole Jeddus thing. It also blooms what would be the bond between Mighty and Zero, but also the show's fascination with Mighty, which it's a lot. It gets a lot. The only thing that upset me is out of this episode's reach is the fact that for this episode, the one thing people always talk about is the fact that it uses Seinfeld music. Seinfeld this, Seinfeld that, Seinfeld oh, Seinfeld ah.
Seinfeld, Seinfeld, Seinfeld. Seinfeld.
talking with Ryu. When everyone else is sick, it's up to Ryu and Birdie for this episode's adventure. So it's actually really funny to see how every time Birdie tries to get his hands on Ryu, some Karen comes and thinks Birdie is a jerk. It's a really simple and effective running gag done really well. Honestly, it's a really funny episode that manages to get the perfect number of laughs from such an unexpected pairing like Birdie ordering a read translation book to try to understand Ryu. That's really hilarious. The villains were also a riot, especially Mojo. He's like an egomaniac who thinks he's way better than he actually is. How can you not love that? And while I wish White Barber wasn't as much in this as he ended up being, he still provided some great laughs as well. It's an awkward, hilarious time to be with someone you don't usually hang out with. The glorious Hiji Bandits. This episode has such a great idea. Why don't we get to see the lives and perspectives of the villains where they're not trying to mess with the Jedders? On paper, that sounds like it has a lot of potential. I mean, you know you're in good hands with the way they integrated the intro into the episode. This is a collection of great gags, like the one about the Hiji brushing their teeth with their mouth open. That one got chuckles out of me. But they really could have chosen a better mustache for this one Hiji. It's kind of concerning. But the best part is the movie Mojo made. It features him as an ultimate Giga Chad. Maybe you might even say he was a Sigma. God, I hate myself. While having evil deformed looking versions of the Jedders. Well, except for Zero, who looks like a character from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Needless to say, the Hiji aren't happy because narcissism, but I for one greeted with open arms for how much of a masterpiece it truly is. But like I said, this is a wonderful idea, executed flawlessly, unlike their plans to defeat the Jedders. Curry and the Prince. Just like how there are many bombers, it makes sense that there are many Dodonpas as well. And this is what this episode is about. Finding out more about Bongo species as well as a whole what Dodonpas are like. And their fond love for curries. Especially curries that look like the type a certain meat bird would be pecking away.
Samambo kongaragaccia bossa nova bici bongo dododom.
Let's start. Now get on with the plot.
Like the number 10, this just has some great gags. Gegu's sufferance is absolutely hysterical, and in fact, so is Mojo's sufferance. This episode certainly helped maintain sentimental feelings. a fierce battle B1 Grand Prix and the episode right after. You know how battle mode is sometimes seen as a competition? Well, here is Bomberman Jedda's turn, although I'm surprised none of the Baku-guided Bomberman anime did this. Not even the one with the V. But anyway, a lot more of Planet Bomber gets to be explored, and an episode like this always allows a lot of character-based gags, which allows to focus on the weird and absurd of characters, like what they did with Pretty Bomber. A bunch of cheerleaders and even
Oh, Momo-chan ya! Momo-chan!
博士何見に来たのよ。
especially
お、キャーキャー、この飴おいしいじゃん。
which the episode does really well.
あれが宇宙に一つしかない優勝カップか。
優勝カップは無常軍団がいただくぜ。
あれがマイティの弟か。おやぼん、大し。
And it has a whole lot of action. It's definitely a ring worth entering. A close look at the Jeddas. Just like with the glorious Hiji Bandits, we focus on the lives of the Jeddas, and just like that episode, this also has a lot of potential. Hey look, it's me in this very video. Unlike the glorious Hiji Bandits, this episode is far more atmospheric, which I can really appreciate. It's why I put it higher than the glorious Hiji Bandits. A lot of the humor in this comes from the mundane nature of work and life. Think of this episode like Seinfeld without this bit of comedy. Or Friends, but I like that since it gives this episode a unique flavor, and it also reminds me of Cowboy Bebop, like an entire slice of life anime condensed in one episode, like Pop-Tart. Wait. Although I need to ask, why does Gangu need to do the exercise? He's a robot, he doesn't need to do any of this. Max comes back to life. Max is a really interesting character in general, and this episode is proof of that. It's a mix of amnesia and a character study as we, the audience, find out along with Max himself. It is emotional, it is gut-wrenching, and only funny in the beginning, but it leaves you asking, who is Max? The glamorous mermaid and sunrise bomber friendship. Here we go, a lighter part of episodes to cheer us up the mood from the number 6 pick. When having a bratty spoil you the villain, you can either do nothing, like with Sonic Lost World, you can either go too far, or in the case of this episode, hit the right balance by seeing what makes her annoying to Hiji Bennett and Mojo, but also funny to us. But what is just as funny are Gangu and Bongo in this episode, quitting the judges for another job only for Gangu to fuck them both over by missing being in the team but refusing to admit it, which is funny. But it also manages to show how both are really important to the team, which is really heartfelt. It also goes as they help Zero Bomb develop a new bomb, one that is Mermaid's Bomber's weakness, and that's not thanks to the underwear and drum, but the underwear is majestic. I'll buy 20 of those, thank you. Friendship, water, desert, and electricity somehow managed to make one kick-ass concoction of an episode. Underground go go go. When Zero Bond destroys the only space core they had, South sees the opportunity for getting space core and takes it, but so does Mojo. So what you get is a white goods cheese, which is pretty fun to watch, and I'm pretty sure there is somebody out there who can relate to Zero having to go to the bathroom more than ever, but no bathroom is in sight, even if this isn't as pushed as much as when Wacko had to go through with this. It's still kinda funny though. The whole episode is pretty funny, honestly, with unexpected life philosophy, and the payoff for the meat makes it worth it in my opinion. There's no better way than cave digging for a laugh riot. 3,000 light years to find Mother and protect Charabom. You know those stupid movies where they have the big tough actor guy look at little itty bitty kids and wacky hijinks ensues? Well, this has nothing to do with those, and it's more like if you took Yoshi's Island and made it with more emotion and funny. Anti-stinker. Well, anyway, you get to really feel the relationship between Zero Bomb and a baby elephant, while you're also getting to see how it develops. We also get to see the opposite of Mujo and the Hiji bandits, known as Ako and the Chiche bandits. And let me just say, they are loads of fun. I honestly wish they were in more episodes. The fact that this episode contains 2 antagonists is a breath of fresh air. Someone other than Mujo, in this case the Charabom police, a bunch of police dragons who wear ties and take themselves way too seriously, and I also find them great. But can somebody please tell me why both Eiko and Mujo have such big pulses? Why? Goodbye, Jetters. After losing back in episode 13, Zero gets fired and returns to Planet Bomber.
You know, sometimes I've come close to giving up myself. There were many instances where this was the case, and there were times I either stopped caring or even straight up wanted to run away. Which is why an episode like this is important. It is important to show how one slip up isn't the end or be all to failure. When we run, sometimes we fall. It hurts no doubt, but the thing is, the world still went on. Just as long as you move forward and even learn where you went wrong, that's the key. Now I have this episode and a boy named Charlie Brown to thank for.
And the number one best Bombermonth episode is Keep Going Jetters. Everything you could ever ask for in the finality is here. All loose ends built up from the last couple of episodes are tied in one beautiful knot. The mighty Zero thing is finally satisfyingly given a resolution, and even if what happens in this isn't much, to me it packs just as much punch as if an episode was fully packed. Farewell, Jetters.
This was Joseph and go watch Jetters.
That seal the #1 spot here. 10-person local multiplayer. The Bomberman franchise had been pioneering multiplayer gaming practically since its inception, so it only makes sense that it holds the achievement for the
really trusting the Bladest Top 10 channel to tell us what is the best Bomberman game ever? I guess I shouldn't be too hard, but is Saturday Bomberman really the best one?
For years and years, I heard this game get nothing but praise. The best this franchise will get.
So good against Ukrainian illnesses! I already disagree with that, but let's get more into the game for more reasons. Why?
So the game starts off with a 2D animated intro, and admittedly it's pretty kick-ass. It's colorful, well animated, and honestly perfectly represent what Bomberman was like in the mid to late 90s. Although, am I the only one that finds it weird and odd how this intro implies that by doing a big bomb in a volcano, the planet becomes a bomb and it detonates, most likely killing everything and everyone in the universe as life could know it?
Or it's stupid. I think that may be it. Wait. Oh no. Wait, no! No, wait, no, wait! I don't wanna go!
Alright, so you have several modes, but I'll start off with normal game. The controls here are fine. They have been better, but here they are fine. You move around with the D-pad, press the A button to pick up bombs with the power glove, press the B button to detonate remote controlled bombs, and press the C button to plant bombs. I don't know why the B and C buttons weren't swapped in functions, but whatever. Okay, so what's the plot? The Heiji bandits are heading into the deepest depths of a jungle in search of the Crystal Tower, a tower that seals away the legendary Crater Demon. They take away the crystals that keeps the monster at bay, which in turn releases him, but with the help of a mind control device, they put him under their control.
But in all honesty, by giving you this plot summary, I spared you guys from the laughing riot of these hilarious, awful voice acting.
Second crystal is hidden in the samurai world.
Forever! Get ready, Bomberman! The world is mine!
My robots, but now you haven't got a chance. Are you ready, Bomberman? This is my masterpiece!
I'm pretty much stalling right now, so let's talk about the actual game. The most blatant difference is the way Tiras function compared to Louise. You see, Tiras initially hatch as babies, but the more food and prey you find, the more they grow. But if they die, they will remain the way you find them, assuming it's the same color if you hatch a new one. But their abilities aren't affected by this for some reason, which is a missed opportunity. Speaking of which, yellow Tiras can roar, pink Tiras can jump, purple Tiras use a detector ray to find items hidden in soft blocks, blue Tiras can kick bombs, and green Tiras can sprint.
Personally, I like the Louise better. Sure, having you help them grow up is an interesting idea, but it adds up tedious, especially remembering that you have to do this process for all 5 tiers. It can be very tiresome. This may seem petty, but I also find the Louise a lot more interesting. Look at all these cuties. Same species, all with unique character. Tiras don't have that, which makes them all blend in and quite honestly feel the same. That may also be why Tiras ended up being in 2 games only. But anyway, the levels may be colorful, but how are they to play on?
Well, they seem to be similarly styled to the ones in 94, where you need to destroy a certain amount of beacon to reach the goal. But unlike 94, you actually get to save, which for someone who's more used to that than passwords is a great help for them.
For me, though, the passwords in 94 weren't randomized. They were attached to each levels, and unless you got a lot of game overs, you can just look them up. So I get, and I am really grateful for why saves are used. The passwords didn't bother me too much personally.
Anyway, something that does stand out is having in-stage gimmicks, like cannibals on the pirate ship.
Your heart fidelity. Being a pirate is alright to be. Do what you want because the pirate is free.
That's why I'm here.
Uh, uh?
But what about the bosses? How are those? They certainly wanted to use bright scaling on some of them, that's for sure, but in terms of how they actually are, they're bosses. Just the typical mediocre bosses. Like the ones that don't really end up standing out from something like Super Bomberman 3's bosses or even 94's bosses. But anyway, another single player mode is called Master. White Bobber now dons an orange sleeveless G, Dragon Ball style, as he goes through the different 20 stages with the occasional boss but no story, and a timer to see how you are ranked, even if it's consistent with White Bomber's outfit. Come on! It's like its own remix version of the first Bomberman if you really think about it. It's really fun and I wish more Bomberman games had this mode. It's really that addictive. As addictive as mozzarella sticks. Oh shit, am I drooling?
Finally, oh wait. Oh, hang on. Oh. Finally, the main thing people keep gushing about for this game, the multiplayer. And the reason is simple, actually. Because of it being 10 player compatible. Now, I'm sure that was impressive at the time. There's just one problem. Are you listening? Are you listening? Good. Listen. Hello! There have been games in the series that surpassed that. So it's not really that much of a selling point now, is it?
And I don't know why you'd want to do that when it makes the graphics require a lot more squinting from the eye. So I only recommend 4 players max. I don't care if that's traditional, just as long as you're able to see without squinting. Because this is a pretty fun multiplayer, along with in-stage gimmicks like single player. They even got a bunch of cameos from other Hudson Soft games. Aww.
So with that being said, what are my thoughts on Saturn Bomberman? Well, it's good, but it's not that good. For my money, if I wanted something super duper great, I'd go to 94. Even Super Bomberman 3 I'd go for if personal preferences put me in the mood. Saturn Bomberman is by no means a bad game. I don't think so anyway. It's got good stuff, and it is good stuff, but said good stuff to me is being overblown to seem way better than it actually is, which is why I say play it once, but that's it, just play it once. This was Joseph from Joseph's World, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bomberman. Yeah, I let Bombermonth bled into May. My bad, guys. But anyway, today's game is the third and final of the Barber Lure trilogy. Why, you may be asking?
Well, you see, originally it was a Virtual Boy game after Panic Bomberman. It was cancelled because of the Virtual Boy's failure. Ow! Elements would later end up in the Bomberman world, like the 3 new animal partners, the 2 mechs, and even the God Barber name and parts of the design. Not to be confused with Transformers character of the same name. But the reason this is the final game of the Barber lore is because it follows from what were established in Bomberman Quest and Bomberman War respectively.
But to be honest, I've been dreading this one. Not because it's bad or anything. It's because of what it does to shake up the formula, which I'll go more into after the story.
A long time ago, Barber Hero defeated the evil Dark Force Barbers and imprisoned them inside blue crystals. However, years later, Bagura returns to revive his followers by transforming them and increasing their powers before sending them out to conquer planets, which White Barber sees as he searches in his ship and takes off to challenge them. What we have here is a 2D Bomberman, but this time sprites are pre-rendered like the Donkey Kong Country trilogy, and much like those games, the graphics aged well. But yeah, part of the reason I was worried was because of the isometric view. And yes, it's up isn't exactly up or down isn't exactly down. For example, things can get awkward. I tried to get used to it, but it's still awkward. Well, anyway, you need to collect all the crystals in each stage and then go to the goal. You don't even have to kill all enemies, which I like a lot. But unfortunately, they don't like me, as I swear this is the most they cornered me in a Bomberman game. It's frustrating.
You always do that.
In fact, enemies that can screw you over come in plentiful for this game. They screw you over in many different fun ways, which blows because the level design aren't too savvy. I may even say they are decent, but how can I enjoy them when the enemies are such huge pricks?
But what about the new animal partners?
Well, this includes T-Bow, who can jump, Nianzaro, who can throw bombs, Rick, who can dash, and Lock-on Armor, who can throw again, but in a slightly different way.
Okay, so while it is cool they were reused from a cancelled game, just like how Lunatic started out as Ed's idea, why didn't they just use the Louise? That would have been far more for starters, and they could also create new ones that use the ideas from the animals in this game.
The voice acting is cheesy, from the voice given to the voice delivery or even the lines themselves. These are awful, laughably so.
Winner!
And the European version, which I didn't play for this video, is even worse.
Power will never die. I shall return.
But what about the bosses?
Well, they have two parts. The first part is entirely unlocked. They never stop moving and you can almost never get them unless you either time it really well or you get hit either by them or bombs.
What about the second part?
Well, these are so much better. You start to wonder, what the fuck were they thinking? Why not just remove the first parts of bosses? Well, anyway, another mode is challenge. Depending on if you choose 2 or 5 minutes, you'll have those amounts of times to do the challenge.
I hate that. I hate it!
And then there's the only thing that makes me smile, the multiplayer. Not only did they get King Bomber's color correct, the multiplayer is fun as well. It's like a rare spark of joy.
Well, overall, if the Baku Bomberman 64 duology were the Mario Sunshine of the Bomberman franchise, then Bomberman World is the Mario 2 The Lost Levels of the franchise.
On the surface, neither of them seem that bad or unfair. In fact, they trick you with their inviting graphics, but the deeper you go into them, the more quirks and oddities get under your skin. They both drive those who play nuts, and that's why I recommend having comfort drink on standby. Or just don't play either of them. In fact, yeah, that's the better thing to do, but don't play them.
This was Joseph from Joseph's World, and I'll see you guys next time. Hello, everybody. Well, we're at the end of Bombermonth, but it's okay. I've got you covered. Clearly by being late, but anyway. I am sick of you. Can't you just leave me alone? now. See too. This is the silliest thing an internet reviewer has ever done. I probably shouldn't do this ever again. Hmm. So, where was I? Oh yeah. So 3 years after the Bomberman 64 series was concluded, we got the spiritual successor in the form of Bomberman Generations.
Now developed by the obscure game arts who helped co-develop Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, they also made that TMNT game on PS2 and Wii, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Smash Up. I should probably cover that eventually. The last game they made was back in 2019, so it's been a while, but they're probably just taking hibernation. That being said, will it be better or worse than the Bomberman 64 games? I don't know, you need to be patient. So the story is that the 6 bomb elements were scattered after Mucho and the Hiji bandits attacked a space fighter, White Bomber and Max, along with a bunch of Charabubs searched the planet Tentacles for the missing 6 bomb elements. Can I just say that the voice acting for this game is all over the place? You get decent performers like Professor Ein, for example, but then you get some of the most hilariously awful ones you've ever heard in your life. It's just comedy gold.
Bandits don't beat you to them. Moving on. Once you've gathered several Carabombs, attempt to merge Carabombs. If you succeed, you'll have even more powerful Carabombs. I'm counting on you, Bomberman!
This is the ultimate secret weapon of the Higgy Bandits! The battleship Armored Joe! Bomberman! If you want the bomb element, then you must come to me! That is, if you can get this far. Surprise, you even made it here, Bomberman! But praise you? Yeah! If you're brave enough, then come try to get it! Look! This is the true strength of the bomb element!
Why would they even go with something like that? Hey Bomberman! Why do I sound like Strong Bad's reject? The game features a brand new design for Bomberman, which gives him a much thinner look along with new accessories like really leafy red scarf that makes me think wind is going to flap the ends on his face like that one deleted scene in Tiamanti 2007, and 2 thick gold bracelets that really remind me of the one Sonic has at the end of Sonic Unleashed. Is it just me who thinks that? While the scarf and bracelets wouldn't stick around, the thinner design did. Honestly, I like it. It's a nice evolution from the chubby design used during most of the 90s. The game's graphics are cel-shaded. It becomes obvious when looking at the characters who were given black outlines. Outside of that, it's honestly not that noticeable. In fact, the environments and how the colors were handled really reminded me of Klonoa 2, Lunatea's Veil. The colorful but subdued colors, the hidden blink and you miss it details, the really charming and surprisingly natural 3D models from the 6th generation of games. It's all really similar. But what about the controls? Well, the left stick moves the character while the C stick cycles through attribute bombs or charabomb, and the D-pad zooms in and out while the L and R shoulder buttons move the camera. To place a bomb, you press the A button, and to pick it up, you hold the A button and let go to throw. To be frank, the controls are actually better than the back of Bomberman 64 duology. They feel so much smoother, although I wish controlling the camera was a lot less janky and cluttered. This game's levels are more so structured, like how they were in the second attack, as opposed to how they were in back of Bomberman 64. I wish they followed the one from back to Bomberman 64. But as long as they shorten the length, I'm fine with them returning to the structure. But did they shorten the length? Please? No! Why are these levels so long? Did Hudson Soft really not realize we didn't need levels to last a goddamn century? The Chara bombs are back from the second Bomberman Max on Game Boy Advance. Here they pretty much act like Palmy from the second attack. In fact, Palmy even appears in this game. Ugh. Each of them has a unique special ability and attribute. Some are more needed than others, but for the most part you won't even be using them, so it's actually pointless in hindsight. But what you will be using more of are attribute bombs, which are essentially the elemental bombs from back of Bomberman 64 the second attack. However, a lot of them are situational, like water bomb extinguishing fire, and just like back of Bomberman 64 the second attack, you'll most likely be sticking with the most powerful, which sucks because they had an opportunity to be really cool ideas and concepts with the attribute bombs. In fact, why couldn't we combine 2 attribute bombs, mix and match for a puzzle that doesn't work with the normal attribute bombs on its own? But they didn't. Well, anyway, minigames are here and most of them test your reflexes and timing, rewarding you with the merge item to be able to get an attribute bomb. But other than that, they seem so simple and easy, but they are really tricky to do, to the point they almost seem not worth it to do. The levels in this game tend to feel meandering, even more so than back of Bomberman 64 the second attack, which doesn't allow these levels to feel engaging, even with their linear nature. But what about the bosses? How do they compare to the ones back in the Baku duology? Well, unlike the back of Bomberman 64 duology where the bosses were demon spawn reincarnation of the Mario 2 The Lost levels, they were that hard. Here is the complete opposite. They're pathetic, absurdly so. It's to the point they are underwhelming.
Playing the Baku duology and this back-to-back is like mercilessly getting ganged up on and then just getting bad-aid for me. Maybe even a lollipop if you're lucky. That doesn't feel right.
The music is hit and miss for me. The new theme composed by Sohei Bando and Takahiro Nishi sounds great, fantastic even. It's like a neat evolution of Jun Sikuma's initial take. In fact, if you listen closely, you can hear bits of her version coming through, but the rest I can do without. A lot of them are obvious loops, which isn't a bad thing, it's just they are catchy enough for me to remember or even hum. Lastly, there's the multiplayer, which goes back to the grid-based tradition, even though they still give you the 360 movement of the single player. Odd. There are several modes that include normal, reversi, which has you paint the most panels with your bomb, coin battle, get the most coins, I guess Warrior's influence rubbed off on White Bomber, dodge battle, avoid the bombs from the sky,
The sky is falling! The sky is falling!
and revenge, where everybody starts off in that mode but need to get as much moles as possible, even if they don't look like moles. These are fun, but definitely even better with friends. And that's Bomberman Generation, a game that's the pure definition of half-baked. If they tweak the level design, the bosses, and even the usage of the cherub bomb and the elemental bombs, I would easily consider this the best 3D Bomberman game. But as is, I just can't.
Despite that, it wouldn't stop Hudson from reusing the same engine, as not even a year later, a pseudo-sequel was made based on the anime of the same name, Bomberman Generation. It released everywhere despite the anime being stuck in Japan, but for some reason, this is a notorious game among fans, and I guess I'm about to find out why. This is Bomberman Generation.
We start off with the intro and no. What is this awful music? What happened to the one from the anime? Well, it turns out they changed it for the international version, since the Japanese version is from the anime. Why couldn't they translate it like how it's done for Smiling Bomb? This is off to a bad start. Maybe the voice acting can cheer me up.
I am the legendary Thunder Bomber! I will burn you to a crisp in a flash!
It is not I who am crazy, it is I who am mad!
But anyway, Mojo and Dr. Mikado are up to no good when they plan to destroy Planet Bomber by crashing the Dark Star into it. As Jedda's leader, South informs White Bomber, and he sets off while Max catches up.
How do you do that? How do you do it? How do you fuck up a relationship of two characters in the first few minutes?
They were allies, they were very much not allies. The only person he respects is his creator. Everybody else he couldn't care less about.
Let's just get into the game.
The game is similar to Generation down to the cel-shaded graphics, which I still like, only this time you can swap between White Bomber and Max. Max can use hyperplasma bombs while White Bomber can use Chara bomb like the last game, but the difference are that Chara bomb are no longer like Pokemons, as you can evolve them with fruit collected in stages. Even Max can, despite not being able to use Chara bombs, still grab fruit. And Chara bombs can be found being captured by Hiji bandits, but you'll still only be using them as much as Generation, just like how Max will only be used for hyperplasma bomb weak walls. And that's it. Would it have made more sense to have Max as a villain if he was going to end up that useless anyway? Like, oh, I don't know. The anime, speaking of allies, this is one of those games where they state the obvious.
Where they state the where they shut up.
Not only are you incredibly out of character, but you never shut up. It never ends. The level design is what was established in Generation, except it's somewhat easier to get lost. How? Well, it turns out the levels were made a bit more open-ended. Sometimes it's straight up a maze. What? To give credit to the others, Backer 64 was sandbox, Second Attack was sandbox and linear, Generations didn't have its levels this convoluted. Does it help that some enemies respawn from their spawn point? No, why? But what about the bosses? They're a mixed bag. Sometimes you get Generations weak nature, and sometimes you get the Bombermonth 64 duality's Bolsawak. You never know what you're going to get, and it's a mixed bag. But who cares? When I finally beat... What the hell is this? Why are they chasing White Bomber? Well, apparently, just like Bombermonth 64, something needed to be collected. In this case, cards. Not for Yu-Gi-Oh!, not for Pokemon, not even for Digimon, or Bomberman Jedders. Yeah, they did a card game for the anime, just generic cards.
Let me just... Okay, so I got the card. I even did your Bolsawak extra boss. Show me your different ending, please.
Shout, Elaine, Mermaid Bomber, Granny Bomber, pack a bag, we're off to Burma.
This game is bad on many levels. It feels as a game. It feels as an adaptation. It even feels as a 3D Bomberman game, but all of them did that. What I'm trying to say is, I didn't have fun with this. I'll just say it, this is worse than Act Zero. At least that one wasn't painful. At least that game didn't make me go. But honestly, none of these 3D games are good. With the exception of Bomberman Heroes, which that one was underwhelming. And Bomberman Generation, which was half-baked. But yeah, these are bogged down by the insistence on being difficult and even inconsistent. Don't get me wrong, I love a 3D Bomberman game. In fact, I want them to try again, but not like this. Not like this.
But hey, at least Bombermonth is over, even if it's technically Bombermate now. I love me some Bomberman, but I definitely need to see an old friend.